Alrighty, so week number 4 is now in the books, and do you like goals and late drama? Because we definitely had that this week. I mean, for the past 2 weeks, after just some low-scoring affair, and it seems like goals were hard to come by, there were definitely some games where it featured a lot of goals, and some games that feature some classic MLS After Dark and peak MLS moments in some of these ones. But nevertheless, let us begin talking about the first one. And of course, I said that there was a lot of goals in some of these games, and unfortunately, I had to start with the one that actually ended in a no draw, and is the only game that ended in a no draw in week 4 of the MLS action. And I'm not gonna lie, this was definitely a game that kind of lived up to what we thought it was going to be. We thought that this was going to be intense, and we thought that we were going to get a game that you could definitely tell that these two teams, they could meet each other in the playoffs, and we could see a very similar type of game that Seattle and LAFC play, and it was. But I think at the end of the day, you definitely can sense that the Sounders will be disappointed, because I think overall they were kind of the better team in this one and probably should have got a goal in this one to beat LAFC. But that being said, in the first half, I thought they were on the front foot early, but Stefan Fry did make a very awkward save on Vela's shot. I mean, he basically palms that one away, and almost palmed right into the path of Bawanga on the rebound. But fortunately, he just pushed that one far enough to put behind for a corner. But I thought LAFC started to kind of control the game a little bit, and it feels like it's now the Sounders the one that was elected to sit back and hit on the counter. Though in the 23rd minute, we came the closest of anyone scoring in this game, with Rusnak struck the post from long range. Ruidíaz then had a scissor kick goal attempt, but he hits one right to McCarthy. Before there was a huge shout for a penalty from the Sounders that was not given. But there was no doubt the momentum was back with the Sounders. They were pressing to try to get the opening goal. We then get some pushing and shoving between both of these teams. And this kind of happened after Aaron Long decided to kick the ball away with Stefan Fry basically holding on to it. Yeah, when you basically do that, you are definitely going to draw a crowd, and that, yeah, there was definitely some feistiness between both of these teams. I don't know if there was actually some yellow card that was handed out, but it definitely got a little bit heated in that occasion. But McCarthy then denied Ruidíaz from close in the first man stoppage time, and despite the fact the Sounders had some big opportunity to get the opening goal, we had to have time scoreless between both of these teams. In the second half, Ruidíaz would miss a header after just a dangerous cross in the box. I mean, I thought Ruidíaz played well in this one, and again, still trying to get himself back to well, I wouldn't say match fitness, because, you know, he's been kind of the guy that for the Sounders, I feel like this season they're kind of almost limit some of the minutes, knowing the fact that he's been having some injury concern, and also he is, of course, getting older. But, you know, so far he hasn't really found the sharpness as we've seen in previous year, though of course that can easily change if he can bang in a goal in these upcoming games. But there was no doubt the Sounders continued to dominate possession and searching for the opener, and I thought LAFC maybe was playing for the 0-0, and I wouldn't blame them for playing the 0-0, because LAFC have played a lot of games. Like, you know, we talk about teams that have been in CCL and how much of a challenge it is to balance both competition at the same time because of the roster restriction that MLS put. So you can definitely see fatigue was definitely a factor in that. Steve Cherundolo was just hoping they can grind out a 0-0 reserve. Arriaga then heads it wide in the front post as the shots were 7-4 for the Sounders through 70 minutes. It was kind of a little bit even. I thought it was heavily in favor of the Sounders up to that point. But nevertheless, there was a scramble in the LAFC box, but the Sounders couldn't put that one in, and then Rusnak would hits a shot that actually fell kindly to Freddie Montero, who hits it right to McCarthy. And I just feel like it just doesn't seem like it was happening for the Sounders. They were being way too wasteful in front of goal. And then in the 86th minute, Bawanga had a rare opportunity for LAFC, but he puts it high. But little do we know that kind of sparked see a little bit, because they had a couple of decent chances. Cifuentes missed it high on the volley before Opoku missed an absolute sitter from 4 yards out. Yeah, that's one that Mahala would want to have that one back. You usually see him bury that one from that close to the range. But all of a sudden, it looked like LAFC was going to try to steal this. They was trying to steal all 3 points besides They were trying to steal all 3 points, even though they were second best at times in this game. And I thought the Sounders were kind of unraveling in the last 5 minutes. I mean, there was some unnecessary turnover that they were committing, and that when you basically commit those unnecessary turnover with the likes of LAFC, yeah, I think the Sounders are very lucky that they didn't get paid for. Though in the second minute of stoppage time, Fry did deny Opoku in the near post, and in the end, it ends in a scoreless draw between both of these teams. The shots in this one, 11 shots to 10 compared to LAFC. 3 shots on goal compared to 4 that Seattle has. 4 shots off target compared to 3 that the Sounders had. 3 shots on block compared to 4 that the Sounders had. And possession-wise, the Sounders does have the better of the possession. 58% possession compared to 42% possession that LAFC has in this game. And I think, again, overall, in a high-intensity game like this, just also looking at how the chances would play, I think it was fair that this ends in a 0-0 draw, but the Sounders will be very disappointed that they didn't get all 3 points in this one, and especially dropping points at home is never a good feeling. But for LAFC, again, I think it's kind of mission accomplished for them because, like I said, they played a lot of games in these past couple of days, and that you can definitely see that they were started to kind of run out of gas a little bit. But to their credit, they almost stole this one right at the end, but just couldn't quite find themselves the clinical finishing themselves at the end too. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match, and now we get to the busy Saturday night action. In fact, this part 1 of the review will basically feature all 7 of those games that started at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, besides the matinee game that we had in this game between Seattle and LAFC. And in the first of 7 games that starts at 7:30 p.m. Eastern and 4:30 p.m. Pacific that we talked about, we had a game that was a one-sided affair. And I think it's safe to say that, I know it might be early, but you got to say Atlanta might be back. I mean, after this performance that they put against the Portland Timbers and the way that they've been performing in the early part of the season, it's safe to say that Atlanta might be back to being an Eastern Conference contender, and Thiago Almada might be right up there in terms of the level that they have not seen since Miguel Almiron was still part of this team back in 2017 and 2018. Though that being said, in the first half, it's actually the Timbers that thought that they got the opening goal in this game, as Williamson absolutely hit a rocket from long range and puts it into the back of the net. The only problem is that VAR basically said that was not a goal because it was disallowed because Nishgoda was in the way of the shot and he was in an offside position, and that was definitely the right call because, again, even though you don't have to touch the ball, but if the ball does come toward your way and you're in an offside position, then yeah, they're always going to catch that. So rightfully so, the goal was disallowed for offside. It stayed 0-0. But once again, Portland, this has been something we've seen before from them. They get off to a good start, almost got an early goal, just like what we've seen in the past couple of games. But now the big question is, can they continue throughout this entire game? I mentioned this in the preview. Can they continue that momentum? Well, safe to say that not only the fact that that's not the case, Atlanta woke up after that goal that they thought that they conceded was saved by VAR, because in the 14th minute, after Goodman blasts one wide from close range, in the 25th minute, Caleb Wiley would score from Amada to make it 1-0 in favor of Atlanta United, and I think Portland just got a taste of their own medicine because this was a lethal counterattack from Atlanta United, and of course Thiago Almada at the center of it. And this won't be the last time I will mention his name because he had another monster night in this one, and he puts a ball beautifully to Caleb Wiley. He was in on goal, and with how hot Caleb Wiley has been, he's not going to miss that. And yeah, Atlanta was leading 1-0. Amada then missed wide from close range before Gio Kamakis would hit one right to Ivicic in the 29th minute, and it was all Atlanta. Like they were piling the pressure, pushing to get that second goal, and they do get the second goal right on the stroke of halftime, and this is your goal of the week. I mean, it's not even a discussion. I don't even need to write goal of the week with a question mark for all the good goals that we've seen. I mean, I'll basically definitely acknowledge that some of the other games I've seen great goals score as good goal, but nothing is going to beat this. In fact, I think this could be a contention for goal of the year because Thiago Almada, we know he can definitely score from free kick. I mean, as a quick span, I know all about it, but even then, this was something world class. Like the fact that he hits that one from that long of a range and able to bend that one in the one area where no goalkeeper in the world was going to save it, off the post and in. I mean, that was just a thing of beauty, and just shows you why that again. Thiago Almada might be an up and coming Miguel Almiron, a guy that there's already talks that he could be worth at least $30 or $40 million, maybe even break the record once again for the biggest outbound transfer we've seen in league history. But that being said, we head to halftime 2-0 in favor of Atlanta. In the second half, Gutman would hit it wide from close, or he hits it wide from close in the back post. Gutman had another good game in this one, and he's been really dangerous going for on the attack, especially in the wing area. But Atlanta was picking up where they left off as they were looking to score their third goal. The shots were 8-3 in favor of Atlanta through 55 minutes, and they would score that third goal in the 58th minute as Giacomakis would score his first career MLS goal from Wiley and Araujo to make it 3-0 in favor of the Timbers, and that was just vintage Atlanta attack. Like, again, this is why a lot of people have said coming out of this game, Atlanta looked like they were back, because the way that they play in this game really reminiscent of the Tata Martino day when they were just an absolute force and to be reckoned with every single match. In the 70th minute, Ivicic would deny Sejdic from close range, but then in the 75th minute, Atlanta would make it 4-0. It's Araujo scoring from Amada to make it 4-0 in favor of Atlanta United. Atlanta is definitely having fun going for on the attack when Luis Araujo is also getting on the score sheet. But again, it was a great ball from Amada there to set that one up. But in the 83rd minute, the Timbers did break out the shutout as Ikubo would score his first career MLS goal from Gutierrez and Williamson. So at least there's some positive that at least they see a guy coming off the bench playing in his first MLS game, scoring on his debut. But that's all the happiness that the Timbers would get, because just 3 minutes later, Atlanta would restore their 4 goals lead, and it's Amada again scoring here, his second goal of the game from Etienne Jr. and Gutman to make it 5-1 in favor of Atlanta. That would be the final score of this game, as the shots in this one, 18 shots for the 8 that the Timbers had, 3 shots on goal for the 8 that Atlanta has, 8 shots off target for the 4 that Portland has, 2 shots that was blocked for the 1 that the Timbers had, and possession-wise, 59% possession compared to 41% possession that the Timbers has in this game. And like I said, Atlanta, I think they may be truly back. They may be a team that is looking to make a run in the Eastern Conference, and that's definitely not great news for the rest of the Eastern Conference. But for the Portland Timbers, speaking of not great news, yeah, this has just been a disastrous start once again for Giovanni Savaresi's side, and that, again, this is the same problem that they've been having for the past couple of games, the Timbers. They look good, at least for the first couple of minutes, and they just crater for the rest of the game. And not only the crater in this one, but it turns out to be just an absolute laughter in this game between both of this team. But that being said, moving on in the next match, we got Montreal versus the Philadelphia Union, and this game was absolute bonkers. I mean, this game was one that I saw something that I've never saw happen, not only in MLS, but really in all my time watching soccer, that I didn't know that you can actually go to VAR twice in terms of reviewing a single sequence. But that's exactly what happened, and we'll get to that too. But in the first half, and just 1 minute into this game, straight off the bat, a penalty was given to Montreal as Glesnes handballed this one in the box. I believe this was Kyoto, the one that shot this one that took a deflection, but it looked like it was going to go bound, and I think Glesnes, he just can't help himself. He just kind of had to commit a bit of a hand of God moment to just keep that one out. I mean, it wasn't egregious to a way that it was similar to what we see Luis Suarez did a couple of years ago in the World Cup, but definitely one that he knew he kind of knew what he was doing, and definitely a penalty that gives to Montreal, and Kyoto buries it as that gives Montreal a 1-0 lead. It's a dream start from them, and I believe they also said that's the first goal that Montreal, of course, have scored. I actually didn't know that Montreal didn't score a single goal coming into this one. But fast forward into the 44th minute, we had Saros denying Carranza in the back post before he robbed Rue on a point-blank effort in the back post as the Union was pressing late to get the equalizer in the late part of the first half. But we do head to halftime with Montreal holding on to a 1-0 lead. Unfortunately, though, that 1-0 lead quickly evaporated in the second half, because in the 46th minute, Uru was not going to be denied, as he scored here from Gastek and Flock to make it 1-1 in this one, and then 14 minutes later, he would score again, this time from Gastek and Martinez to make it 2-1 in favor of the Union. And I also wrote it was a lethal counterattack for the Union there. I mean, just completely cut open that Montreal defense. But unfortunately, in the 69th minute, Carranza would get himself sent off because of a second yellow card. And it was not a good foul there from Julian Carranza. So, yeah, the Union, they had to play down a man for the remaining part of this game. But that's definitely a lifeline for Montreal. I mean, it looked like they maybe have a chance to push themselves to get the equalizer. But I thought for the most part, for the remaining part of until up to stoppage time, the Union done a good job in terms of limiting the chances that Montreal has and did not give them the momentum to really push for that second goal. And that all changed until when we get to stoppage time. And this is when this game just went on MLS After Dark kind of mode. Because in the 90th minute, Chinoso 04 would score to tie the game up at 2 apiece, or though we thought that was the case, because they did go to VAR to see whether or not if there was an offside, and they say yes, there is an offside, and the goal was disallowed. Now, normally, that would be the end of it, right? But then, a couple of minutes later, they had some discussion, and then the referee decided to go back to VAR again. Now, I don't know if there is a rule in VAR where once a referee looks into VAR and make his decision, that is the final decision. Because if that is the case, then I do think the Union fan base have a rights to be angry about that, because it was bizarre the way that they go to VAR twice in the same sequence, or twice to VAR to check the same sequence. But nevertheless, they did go to VAR again to check it one more time, and then after they check it in the second time, they stick with their original decision. They counted that goal, and apparently, I think in the end, when I look at this whole process, they got that one right. You can definitely see Wagner was keeping everybody on side there near the bottom part of the screen, and therefore the goal, of course, was rightfully stood. But still, the way that how it turns out, and the way that they had to go through VAR twice to fix this mistake, I mean, yeah, it definitely was a little bit more chaotic than usual. Though, again, I do feel like, in my opinion, I would rather see that than just maybe at the end of the day a blown call happen in a game, because this was a huge moment of this game. I mean, this is the 90th minute. This could have been an equalizer and maybe could have been a point for Montreal to rescue. And imagine if this wasn't look again and they didn't get this right, then I think Montreal fans will have every right to be angry because of a goal wrongly disallowed for offside. But nevertheless, in the end, they did get it right, albeit have to do it twice. And in the 8th minute stoppage time, I mean, just as you thought that there wasn't enough drama in this game, Montreal would get that third and winning goal. And it's Kyoto scoring from Schreiner and Wanyama to make it 3-2 in favor of Montreal. As in the end, Montreal, I mean, I'm not sure if this is how they draw up their first win of the season, but they'll take it. They win 3-2 against the Philadelphia Union. Shots in this one, 15 shots committed, 11 that the Union has, 7 shots on goal committed, 4 that Montreal has, 4 shots off target committed, 6 that Montreal has, no shots that was blocked committed, 5 that Montreal has, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that the Philadelphia Union has in this game. And I get it, Union fans are very upset about the whole VAR debacle that was going on, but again, I do think that in the end they got it right, even if it is in a bit of a shambolic kind of display. And that I also look back at the Carranza red card that I think some Union fans were not happy about it. I mean, I don't know what they were on about. When you look on that play, it was pretty clear that Carranza fouled. I forgot which Montreal player it was, but it was a clear foul. It was a very silly foul for a guy that's already on a yellow card. And that, yeah, for the Union, that's going to be a bit of a loss that now they don't have Carranza in the next game. And that again, the Union, I feel like right now, I know some might ask what is wrong with this team with the way that they're struggling in the beginning of the season. I think this is just a classic example of what happened when a team is fully committed into CCL and that they're basically putting MLS in the back burner just for a bit. And that I have no doubt that once the Union does get out of CCL, you would assume that they can make a good run to overcome their slow start to this season. And I say you would assume, because we have seen before where teams did this and they commit fully to CCL and they never recover after their CCL run is over. So we'll see whether or not if that is the case, or will we see the Union potentially bounce back and basically once again solidify themselves as still the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. But that being said, moving on in the next match, we got New England versus Nashville, and this is a game that Nashville will feel like they've been hard done, because I thought they played well in this game against New England, but how many times have I said before where if you're not being clinical in front of goal, yeah, you are going to be made to pay for, and New England just did enough in front of goal in this one to sneak out a 1-0 win. But early on, Nashville had some early opportunity. Lovitz would hit one wide from close range before Petrovic denied Mukhtar from long range, as Nashville, of course, on the front foot. I mean, this definitely was not what I expected. I thought Nashville was maybe just going to do what they do, which is kind of bunker and then counter, as what we see Gary Smith team tends to like to do on the road. But they were definitely on the front foot, and the refs, they were still reeling from their last week blowout loss. Like you can see, it was a slow start for this team. But that being said, in the 28th minute, they had their first big opportunity, and I think Gustavo Bo would be very fortunate that he eventually did get on the score sheet, because if he didn't, this would be one that he would want to have back, because he was in on goal there, but he missed wide there from close range, and that just kind of sums up Gustavo Bo, at least in the past 2 seasons, for his time with the New England Revolution, where there's times where he gets into a good spot, and yet he's not able to find that clinical finishing. Though in the 34th minute, New England is very fortunate that they were not 1-0 down, because Walker Zimmerman struck the post on the header from the corner, and then there was a scramble there in the box, which New England just about cleared that one away. Mukhtar then hits it wide from close in the 40th minute, as Nashville was well on top. But again, the fact that they weren't able to put the ball into the back of net, it's got to be frustrating if you're in Nashville perspective, especially if you are the road team. But we do have halftime scoreless between both of these teams. And the second half, Wood had a free header in the 48th minute, but he hits it right to Willis before he tried to stab one in from close, but couldn't put that one away. And then Willis would rob Barrero from close range there in the 51st minute. And whatever Bruce Arena said to this team at halftime clearly worked, because this New England team looked like a different team in the beginning of the second half. They looked much better and had that purpose of trying to get that opening goal instead of just looking second best for the entire first half. And it paid off for them, because in the 52nd minute, Gustavo Bo would be on target as he scored here from DeJuan Jones to make it 1-0 in favor of New England. Pico then tried to tie it for Nashville, but he missed wide from close range before McCarty would flick one that just missed wide there. I don't think he was actually intended that one to go toward goal, but more like was hoping one of his teammate was available in the back post to tap it in, but it wasn't meant to be. But really, as the time winds down, Nashville, they were pressing hard to try to get the equalizer, and New England was just hanging on for dear life. Like, it looked like they were trying to hold on to get a 1-0 win. And again, this really looked like kind of what I thought the opposite would happen, where I thought it would be Nashville the one that would be just kind of hanging on to a lead against New England, or if they are still at 0-0, they were holding on for dear life to get themselves a point on the road. But New England was just hanging on for dear life, and thankfully they were able to hold on as they win 1-0 in this one. The shots in this one, 16 shots committed, just 10 that New England has, 5 shots on goal committed, 3 that Nashville has. So yeah, this is the problem. Nashville has 16 shots. Only 3 of them was on target, and Petrovic, he was definitely not tested as much as what we saw last week against LAFC, which he just got completely hung out to dry by his defense. 6 shots off target for the 2 that New England has, 3 shots that was blocked for the 7 that Nashville has, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that New England has in this game. Not a pretty game for the Revs in this one, but they'll be satisfied knowing the fact that after that disastrous game against LAFC on the road, it's good for them to bounce back with a win at home. But for Nashville, again, they'll be feeling they're a little hard done in this one because of the way that I thought they played well in this one to get a point. But the finishing was just not there, and they get nothing out of this one. But that being said, I am now going to switch sports and look at the last 4 games as part number 1 of this review. So moving on in the next match, we got the Red Bulls and the Columbus Crew, and the Red Bulls is in the win column for the first time tonight after a come-from-behind win against the Columbus Crew. So early on, Nealis had a shot that was deflected and he goes wide before Room denied Cáceres Jr. from close range. As I thought the Red Bulls were on the front foot and they were doing their usual thing, pressing high up the pitch, and was really causing problem for Columbus in this one. Room denied Cáceres from close range. By the way, one thing I haven't mentioned is that Columbus was without Cucho Hernandez in this one, and you can see that they kind of miss him in this one because they weren't very lethal going for it on the attacking end. But that being said, they did get the opening goal in the 32nd minute as Matan would score here to give the Crew a 1-0 lead, and kind of against the run of play too, because up to that point the Red Bulls were the better team. But at the same time, it was a gift from the New York Red Bulls. I mean, it was a mistake at the back between Reyes just gifted the ball right to Matan, and then Cornell just inexplicably come off his lines, and just, once that ball was given away, he was completely caught in no man's land there, and Matan with a cool finish to slot that at one home. And yeah, Columbus stealing a goal despite being second best, at least in the first 32 minutes, to take a 1-0 lead. And then the game kind of went into a bit of a stalemate. There was not a lot of chances that was created, which again, that usually favors the road team as we head to halftime with the Crew with a 1-0 lead. But in the second half, they try to double that lead with Yoboa going through on goal, but he only hits this one right to Cornell. And in the 58th minute, the Red Bulls tie it. It's Luquinhas that ties the game up at 1 apiece. By the way, the 2 goals scored for the New York Red Bulls in this one, this is definitely going to give Red Bulls fans a lot of hope because, you know, the 2 guys that scored in this one were really the 2 guys that they were hoping that can get on the score sheet. I mean, Luquinhas, it's been a disappointing start for him, but he finally got himself on the score sheet here to tie the game up at 1 apiece. But then the game kind of once again went into a bit of a lull, just like what we saw after a goal was scored. Not much chances were created, and that it was kind of very stop and go, which is not a big surprise because I think every time when I see the Columbus Crew take on the New York Red Bulls, it tends to be a very sloppy and kind of stalemate type of game where there's a lot of fouls and a lot of physicality in the game. But in the 76th minute, Zarian would pose it wide on the free kick. But then in the 86th minute, the Red Bull would take the lead. It's Dante Benzir. He scored his first goal in MLS from Token and Cáceres Jr. to make it 2-1 in favor of the Red Bulls. And what a way to score his first goal. Not only potentially a winner, but just a wonderful volley of a goal. Just kind of a striker type of goal that they were really hoping Dante Benzir is going to be. And again, if that is going to be something we're going to see, this is definitely great news for the New York Red Bulls. But yeah, that gives the Red Bulls a 2-1 lead. They try to make it 3-1 when Fernandez had a chance in the second minute of stoppage time, but the post says no. Cornell then denied Zarian in the 3rd minute of the stoppage time, and I thought that was really the first time where the game really opened up. I mean, again, throughout this game, it wasn't really open up because of all the stop and go nature, but it really opened up in stoppage time, and that was not what the Red Bulls wanted. I mean, again, when you're leading, you should not be playing an open game against your opposition and basically open yourself up potentially conceding. But thankfully, the Red Bulls gets away for it because Columbus weren't able to get the equalizer, as in the end, they get their first win of the season with a 2-1 come from behind win. The shots in this one, 15 shots compared to 5 that the Crew has, 3 shots on goal compared to 4 that the Red Bulls had, 6 shots off target compared to 2 that Columbus had, no shots that was blocked compared to 5 that the Red Bulls had, and possession-wise, 38% possession compared to 62% possession that the Columbus Crew has in this game. Again, the goal scorer in this one, that's going to really satisfy Red Bulls fans because those were the 2 players that they were really hoping can get going. But for the Columbus Crew, the road struggle continues. I mean, there's not much I can say. This team just simply cannot win on the road, and they look day and night when they play on the road or at home, and this was just another classic example of it. But that being said, moving on in the next match, we got NYCFC versus DC United, and actually, let me just fix the scoreline here because I think when I put the board, I kind of smushed the scoreline a little bit. Actually, let me just rewrite the score here. Change it to my brown pen here. So, yeah, NYCFC, of course, they get the win in this one against DC, but it definitely got a little interesting, at least in the latter part of this game. So, in the first half, just 16 minutes in, Magno would score here from Kerfman and Parks to make it 1-0 in favor of NYCFC. Now, originally the goal was disallowed because of offside, but they go to VAR to see whether or not if that is the case, and it wasn't. Magno was in an onside position, so yeah, that gives the home team a 1-0 lead. Roberta did try to respond for DC, but he was denied by Barraza. And then in the 36th minute, Santi Rodriguez, he scored here from Pereira to make it 2-0 in favor of NYCFC. Remember what I said in the preview, how Santi Rodriguez is going to be a difference maker for this team? Yeah, it's safe to say that he's definitely been a difference maker, especially in this one. But in the second half, DC does get one back straight away as Bendeke would score from Cleek and Paulson to make it 2-1 in favor of NYCFC. And really, the triple sub that Rudy basically brought in at halftime, it worked in a profession because they looked like a revitalized team in the second half. They were trying to push to get themselves the equalizer. Barraza had to deny Coup di Pietro from close range. But then in the 88th minute, NYCFC would put this game out of reach, or at least at that point we thought that was the case. Because after Thiago Andrade scored from Rodriguez to make it 3-1, DC would get one back to really set up this to be a grandstand finish as Steven Birnbaum would meet a header from Mateus Click to make it 3-2 in favor of NYCFC. And it looked like we're in for some MLS After Dark energy with the way that both teams was trading goals late, and I thought we were going to get some dramatic late goals as we'd seen in some of these games. And really, with 9 minutes of stoppage time, you can definitely sense it was all hands on deck for NYCFC to hang on for dear life as they was just trying to nurse this one to get all 3 points. And the good news for them is that they're able to hang on to win this one. 3-2 was the final score in this one. Shots in this one, 10 shots compared to 9 that DC had, 4 shots on goal compared to 6 that NYCFC had, 2 shots that was off target compared to 5 that DC had, 2 shots that was blocked compared to none that DC had, and possession-wise, 47% possession compared to 53% possession that DC United has in this game. And again, for NYCFC, it seems like the offense has started to look like the old NYCFC offense that we've seen before, and it shouldn't be a big surprise that once Santiago Rodriguez is back into this team, this team look like they look much more revitalized going forward on the attacking end. And yeah, that's definitely good news for the Citizens. But for DC United, yeah, they tried hard in this game, they fought hard in this one, but again, they just kind of fall short in the end, and especially the defense is going to be an issue for this team. I mean, we know that was going to be a big issue throughout coming into this season, or even throughout last season, and I feel like they're probably going to have a lot of these kind of games where they're going to have to outscore their opponent, and that's where there's got to be some concern, because when you are going to play that kind of style, it usually doesn't result into long-term success, as we've seen in the past by several teams in MLS. But that being said, as I think I don't know where I dropped my pen that I wrote. Let me see. I guess I'll just use my marker as the way to write the timestamp. But moving on, in the next game, we got Orlando versus Charlotte, and boy did Charlotte need this one badly. I mean, coming into this one, it looked like the sky was falling for this team, judging how badly that they played in the first 3 games. But they got a much needed win in this one, and they did it in an impressive fashion too, going on the road against Orlando City and get the 2-1 victory. Although early on it looked like it was gonna be an easy victory for Orlando because they were pushing early to get the opening goal. In fact, they thought that they got it in the 4th minute when Matt Holiday puts it in. The only problem was it was offside, so the goal was disallowed in the 4th minute before Marks had to deny Torres from close range. George Marks making his first start in this one, and I thought he was sensational, and it's definitely worth the high draft pick that Charlotte basically picked him up just a year ago. But it was all Orlando early in this one. I mean, they were pressing to try to get the opening goal. Maguire hits one right to Marks in the 18th minute before Galese had to deny Gaines in the near post. And I thought, despite the fact that Orlando was putting a lot of pressure, I thought Charlotte kind of survived that pressure. They weathered the early storm, and it looked like now that they were looking to try to get the opener. And they do. In the 25th minute, it's Enzo Capetti scoring from Jalen Lindsay to make it 1-0 in favor of Charlotte. Great finish there from Capetti, but even a better ball from Jalen Lindsay. I mean, he put this one right on the dime for Capetti to go through on goal. And, I would say that Capetti really need that one, too, because he has not really got his life off to a good start with Charlotte FC, but definitely that goal would definitely help his confidence and definitely will give Charlotte fans some hope that, yeah, he can still be that 10 plus or even 15 plus goal scorer for the Charlotte team. But then that being said, on the other end, in the 33rd minute, Marks had to deny McGuire, who tried to redirect that shot. I thought Duncan McGuire had another good game for Orlando City. We saw that during the game against Tigres, where he came so close of heading one in that would have got a dramatic win for Orlando City to move on into the next round. But in the 37th minute, Charlotte would make it 2-0, and it's Carvin Vargas scoring his first career MLS goal from Afo to make it 2-0 in favor of Charlotte. Definitely took a lucky deflection for Charlotte. I mean, at this point, they'll take this. I mean, they'll with how bad of a start of this season, they'll take any deflection or any luck that goes in their way. And yeah, like I said, it took a deflection for his first career MLS goal, and we head to halftime with Charlotte with a 2-0 lead over Orlando City. Now in the second half, the post would deny Awful the third goal for Charlotte from close range, but then in the 56th minute, Orlando would get one back, and it's Ojeda, the one that gets one back for Orlando City, and this is where you think maybe this is where the shoe may be dropping for Charlotte FC, because Orlando has the momentum. Maybe they can get themselves an equalizer straight away, and Ojeda almost had that in the 65th minute, but he missed that one high from a tight angle. Momentum was definitely with Orlando as they were pressing for the equalizer, and they thought they got it in the 78th minute, but for the second time in this game, the goal was disallowed for offside, and this time is Enrique that was the victim of a goal that was disallowed for offside. But in the 82nd minute, Marks would tip Ojeda's shots over before he denied Lynn from close range. Again, George Marks was definitely on his game in this one, and maybe he might have won it himself the starting spot after this performance. But there was no doubt that it was nail-biting time for Charlotte. I mean, those Charlotte fans in the stadium, and certainly some that is watching, they're definitely biting their nails, knowing Orlando was pushing really hard to try to get the equalizer. Angulo then missed one from a difficult angle in the 89th minute, but in the end, Charlotte hold on. They got a much-needed first win in this one against Orlando City by a score of 2-1. And the shots in this one, 19 shots committed, 8 that Charlotte has, 4 shots on goal committed, 7 that Orlando City has, 3 shots off target committed, 8 that Orlando City has, 4 shots that was blocked committed, 1 that Charlotte has, and possession-wise, 55% possession compared to 45% possession that Charlotte has in this game. And the irony for Orlando City in this one is that this was probably the best attacking performance that they put throughout this season, and yet they're on the losing side, as unfortunately they suffered the same fate that Nashville did on the road, just not being clinical in terms of their finishing. And when that happens, yeah, you could potentially be made pay and allow the opposition to stay in the game. And for Charlotte, I wouldn't say they were staying in the game if they had the 2-0 lead and was kind of holding on, but they were just a more clinical side in this one. And again, just a much needed win because of how things have gone for this team, and let's see whether or not if they can build this victory up heading into the next game. Speaking of a team that need a much needed win, moving on into the last game of this review as part number 1 of the review for match week number 4 is Toronto. So they also got their first win of the season over Inter Miami, and certainly this is a big win because Miami has had Toronto's number at least for the past couple of meetings, but TFC gets the better of Miami in this one with a 2-0 victory. They had an early chance in the first minute with Ralston heads it wide from close from the corner before on the other end Pizarro hits one that goes right to Johnson. It was kind of back and forth, at least in the first half. I mean, there was definitely a couple of good opportunity for both teams. Johnson would then deny Stefanelli from close range before Mark Anthony Kaye would heads it right to counter. As I said, both teams getting some good half chances early in this one. That would continue for the remaining of the half as Calendar had to deny Larea, but he actually pushed this one right to Cervania, but Cervania only was able to hit a weak shot right to Calendar. And on the other end, Negri would flash one wide from close range before Calendar would deny Benedeschi in the near post. And despite the fact that both teams had some decent chances, We head to halftime, scoreless, heading into the second half. But we wouldn't stay scoreless for long, heading into the second half, because in the 48th minute, Toronto would get the opening goal. It's Jonathan Osorio scoring from Larea and Benedeschi to make it 1-0 in favor of TFC. It was a great team goal for TFC and something that we haven't seen a lot from this season. Martinez then had another great looks in front of goal, another chance to finally get his 100th goal, but he missed that one wide. And I just wonder, is this 100th goal starting to get in the heads of Joseph Martinez? Is he pressing a little bit too hard? Because we have seen so far this season for Joseph Martinez some of those good open looks that we usually see him finish during his time with Atlanta United, and he's not putting those one away. And again, that 100 goal, I do think is really in his heads right now. He is really just pushing too hard to do that, and I think that's maybe something that Phil Neville's going to have to remind his leading striker. And it's not going to be easy because, you know, Joseph definitely has that ego in him. But, you know, again, I just think that maybe Phil Neville might need to have a word with Martinez and just say, hey, keep it simple. Like, don't really overthink it or just press the issue. I mean, you're going to eventually get your 100 goal in MLS, but right now, whatever he's doing, it just feels like he's kind of pressing it when he really don't need to. But in the 65th minute, Larea would win in on goal. But again, he hits this one right to counter. But thankfully for TFC, they would get that second goal in the 69th minute as Marc-Anthony Kaye would get on the score sheet from Benedeschi to make it 2-0 in favor of TFC. And really, as the time winds down, I thought Toronto continued to have some chances to get that third goal. I mean, that second goal really sank Miami chance to maybe get an equalizer in this one. Though that being said, in the 5th minute of stoppage time, again, Martinez had a good look in front of goal, but he dragged that one wide from close range in the 5th minute of stoppage time, as in the end, TFC with a big 2-0 victory to finally get their first win of the season. Shots in this one, 12 shots committed, 9 that Miami has, 6 shots on goal committed, 3 that Miami has, 5 shots on target committed, 4 that Miami has, 1 shot that was blocked committed, 2 that Miami has, and possession-wise, 52% possession compared to 48% possession that TFC has in this game. And remember the first 2 games where Miami got off to a great start to the season and people were thinking that this is going to be a good year and a lot of praise has to give to Phil Neville. Yeah, after these 2 road games, I think reality is starting to set in that maybe they're not as good as they thought that they were at least in the first 2 games. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of these 8 games as part of part number 1 of the review for match week number 4. As always, I'll do part number 2 tomorrow, looking at the last 6 games to wrap off match week number 4. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of these 8 games that happened yesterday. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.